At the end of March earlier this year, I began an experiment to see if I could reignite my love for The Sims 4 after not really playing the game consistently or in any meaningful way for a handful of years prior. This experiment involved me starting a Sims 4 Forever World, which means that I am only playing in this save file, and I'm taking the slow route to filling this save with detailed Sims that I actually play with to incrementally build a really strong sense of attachment and fulfillment in my gameplay. And today I'm sharing my findings and the things that I've learned after running this experiment for about 4 months. I also want to go over some of the challenges that I faced in my Sims 4 Forever World during this time and how I've either overcome them or plan to overcome them in the future. But before we get into that, my name is Yasmin and my mission here on my channel is to help serious simmers like you to find meaningful and fulfilling gameplay in your favorite life sim games. My question of the day is, did you start a Sims 4 Forever World alongside me? And if so, how are you getting on with it? I'd love to hear your progress or any kind of updates or challenges that you've also experienced during this time. Let us know in the comments down below and let's get into the video. So if you've joined my channel more recently, then I think that the best place to start is to actually give a really quick recap of the progress that I've made with my Forever World so far. So I actually started my Forever World with Summer Holiday. I plucked her out of the BFF household, gave her a little makeover, and I planned to run a really thriving spa home business with her, as I just picked up the businesses and hobbies pack around this time. It was here that I also decided that I was really going to commit to the Foundry Cove neighborhood in Willow Creek, and so you'll see that the vast majority of the progress made in my Forever World so far is happening in this area. So I started my Forever World in the spring, and I think it was around about in the summer in-game, I decided to add in Burt Pancakes, who is Bob Pancakes' more ambitious and outgoing but equally food-obsessed brother. My focus with him was to run a food stall using the Home Chef Hustle Kit, and eventually maybe even open up his own restaurant. I also around this time added in Cassandra Goth. I gave her a little bit of a makeover, aged her up into a young adult, and I got her into the science career. As we move into the autumn and winter of year 1 in my Forever World, it was around about this time that Lil Simsy actually announced and released her Very Veggie Legacy Challenge, which is the kind of spiritual successor, I guess, to her original Not So Berry challenge that came out a good few years ago at this point. So I then added in my next new household, which was going to be playing around with this challenge, and my founder was called Jade Sycamore. She's still alive right now. And actually, because of their aligned interests, I ended up having Jade and Summer kind of, form a friendship at first and then form something more. I actually had them get together on a very spontaneous glamping trip over to Granite Falls. They both got engaged and actually married. And upon coming home and aging up into adults, it wasn't long until their bundle of joy, Amethysta Sycamore, was born. But stick a pin in this household because we're going to be circling back around to them in a little while. I then spent a good chunk of time with Cassandra during year 2. I actually had never ever played the Strangerville mystery. I didn't even own the game pack until recently, and I just thought that Cassandra would literally be the perfect sim to explore this content with. So we actually went through and completed the entire Strangerville mystery with her, but we did have to take a quick little break in the middle of this because obviously Cassandra had a lot of drama going on. She'd actually met an alien called McKenna at work, and these two, they were having a cheeky little affair because it turns out that McKenna was actually in not so much of a committed relationship, but albeit married to Lena Coffin, who was Olive Spector's old flame. And as Lane happened to have a terrible sense of fashion, Cass actually decided that he simply deserved to take a little bit of a timeout, I guess, in her underground research facility. I think she decided that, more research needed to be done into understanding how long a sim can live for without food. At some point during this time as well, while we were taking a break from exploring the Strangerville mystery, Cass actually got pregnant via an alien abduction, and so she gave birth to our little spinach baby, Nova Goth. And it was actually quite handy having Lane living in our basement, because Nova actually used his life force to just spontaneously age into a child not long after Lane passed away. But anyway, with the mother plant defeated, it was not long after this that I actually added in my first household that did not exist within Foundry Cove. So enter the mystical girlies. I created this household mainly to play with the new Enchanted by Nature pack that came out not long ago. So these Sims were Misty and Murky Waters. They were inspired by the character Misty Waters from The Sims 2DS, mainly in name alone, and her, you know, slightly evil, like, hidden twin sister Murky. And then because I can't help myself and I love the lore far too much, I also added in Fawn Goodfellow to this household. She is a human sim, and she's actually inspired by Fawn Goodfellow, who is a toddler in The Sims 3. There's a whole lot of lore there, which I do want to talk about in a video soon, so I don't know, again, stick a pin in that for now. And my final and most recent new household that has moved into Foundry Cove is actually Don Lothario, and he's having his midlife crisis. He's being a very, I mean, not so surprisingly, ethically and kind of morally bankrupt adventurer, pillager, I guess maybe you could call him. I've also not really played around much with the Jungle Adventures pack in the couple of years that I've had it now, so I thought that he would be quite a fun sim to play around with this content with. So we've not got too far into Don's story, but that's where we're at for now. But let's swing back around to the Sycamores now though, again in my very veggie household, because in a recent live stream with them, Summer, my very first Forever World sim, died. She literally died in an autonomous barbecue grilling accident. I had absolutely no control over her. I tried my hardest to make her call the fire department, to go shower, to extinguish the flames. I don't know if she just had bad luck, but literally she died and I could do nothing about it. Now, Amethysta is actually an evil sim, despite Jade and Summer's best efforts to raise her with a kind heart. And unfortunately, or perhaps maybe even suspiciously, you could say, Amethysta and Summer actually developed a difficult family dynamic, like hours in game before Summer passed away. So my conspiracy theory at this point is that Amethysta might actually have had something to do with Summer's death. I don't know, let me know what you guys think down below in the comments, especially if you caught that stream and you saw what was going on, because I know that you guys see much more of what's happening in my game than I do when I'm streaming. But yeah, so that's where we're at for now. We recently held Summer's funeral, which was quite a bittersweet moment. I had a little poll going in chat and you guys actually decided that we should bring Summer back as a ghost. The Life and Death pack in my Forever World has constantly been trying to be the main character, and now it actually has its moment to shine. So we did bring back Summer as a ghost. However, this is the most kind of newest piece of story development in my Forever World so far. I've actually decided to separate Summer into a different household, so that to Jade and to Amethysta is almost like she has passed into the spirit realm. However, I am going to be playing with her as a new active household, and to actually fully dive into her ghostly shenanigans and to fully embrace her, ghostly influencer girl boss, slightly toxic girl boss lifestyle, honestly. But that is about all of the progress that I've made over the last 3 or 4 months in my Sims 4 Forever World. And if you found this inspiring so far, it would be really helpful if you could actually drop a little like on the video, or maybe even consider subscribing so that you can stay up to date with the progress that I make going forward. Doing these things, as well as watching the video right the way to the end, tells YouTube's algorithms that my videos are worth showing to more serious simmers like you, which is a huge help. The link to become a channel member and to potentially even donate to my Fourth Wall store are in the description below if you would like further ways to support my channel. Right, enough of my spiel, let's get back to the video. So with that semi-quick recap out of the way, let's get on to talking about the results of this experiment so far. First, I think it's really important to actually acknowledge where I was kind of in relation to how I was playing The Sims 4 before I started my Forever World, so that we can get a kind of sense of the change, I guess. Honestly, I used to be a chronic restarter when it came to The Sims 4, and this was actually the reason for why I wanted to start my Sims 4 Forever World. Basically, I would get the itch to pick up the game again after probably not touching it for months. I would start a household on a whim, not really thinking about the sim that I wanted to play with, just kind of knowing roughly, ooh, I feel like doing some horsey gameplay or a rags to riches for like the 10,000th time, you know? I would half cobble together a sim that looked quite cute, but that had, you know, the personality of a rough stone at the bottom of a river. I'd play in live mode for a couple of hours, maybe in game, maybe a couple of days in a week if I felt like it, and then I would just drop the household, never to pick them up ever again. And it meant that I was just constantly having these really shallow experiences with The Sims 4. And I think that that kind of really almost sullied my opinion towards the game as well. Now, let's get this clear right off the bat. I don't think that The Sims 4 is a perfect game whatsoever. However, I have somehow spent thousands of hours in this game over the last decade, somehow. So I have and do find it fun, but I think that I was just in such a kind of, I guess, toxic pattern with myself when it came to playing the game. Just every experience that I was having every couple of months just felt so hollow. And so this was my point A, I guess, and the catalyst behind why, again, I wanted to start my Sims 4 Forever World. I wanted something that would completely change up my current pattern of how I was playing, because evidently I was not having fun with the game in the way that I was playing previously. And so 4 months-ish into my Forever World, where am I at now? Well, obsessed, for one, which again, considering where I was and how I felt very just disenchanted with The Sims 4, is a huge transformation from where I was in the past. I am thinking a lot about my Sims and what I want to achieve with them, what I want to do in my save file, and for the most part, I still feel really motivated to chase the goals that I've already established with a lot of the Sims that I have in my world at the moment. And I feel like I still have so many ideas for other things that I want to do to continue to build on the kind of like lore and the richness of my Forever World that I've already established. I haven't even remotely considered starting a new save file at any point during the last 4 months, even if my Forever World is a little bit messy in places, but we'll swing back around to that in a little while. I think the biggest thing that I'm feeling with my Forever World right now, though, is still that I'm just getting started with it, which again, I've been playing this for 4 months and like at least tens of hours at this point. I will say though that I'm a very slow player when it comes to The Sims 4 nowadays. Being an adult, I just don't have as much time to sink into the game as I did when I was much younger, which is unfortunate, but also, you know, bills have unfortunately got to get paid. I think that the vast majority of the progress that I've made in my Forever World has actually been captured and shared here on my channel, whether that be through long plays, through my kind of main videos like this one, and especially live streams over the last little while as well. And I think that this kind of, again, unintentional but slow way of playing has actually really benefited me because, again, like when I was much younger and I had a lot more free time to play The Sims 4, I would binge it, you know, I'd carve out an entire day to just sit and play my game. And while that was really fun, I do feel like that could kind of contribute to burnout when playing a household. And so this slower approach to playing, I think really has helped me to stay motivated and just, you know, having that sense of like desire to play, like I'm not letting myself instantly fulfill it constantly, you know? And notably as well, I have to say that I was quite shocked at my own reaction to the first death in my Forever World with Summer as well. I know that we're still playing her as a ghost, but this really did kind of symbolize the end of a chapter with her. And I'd kind of honestly, as bad as this sounds maybe, I had slightly resigned myself to the fact that she was kind of becoming a bit more of a background character in the kind of very veggie story as we were focusing on Jade and now Amethysta more. And so it's quite fun that she's kind of pushed herself back into the spotlight and maybe even weirdly kind of like a little bit meta for the character, potentially you could say, because again, I was having her go through this kind of slight transformation into a little bit of a toxic girl boss, like a vlogger mom. And so the fact that she's just been like, No, me, I am the main character again. It is quite funny to me. And so, yeah, with her funeral, with her death, it's been quite a bittersweet moment, and I did feel very sad when it happened initially. But there's also this sense of excitement of like, wow, okay, I'm getting this new fun, unexpected chapter to play with Summer that I just didn't think I was gonna get at this point. So all in all, I think that this experiment is going pretty successfully so far. I have no desire to stop playing with my forever world at all. I feel super emotionally connected to my Sims, and it actually feels really good to be playing the game again, especially after I've put so much money into all the packs and all the DLC that I have for the game. It feels nice to be getting some use and a lot of fun out of it now. So I guess that is the kind of most concrete results that I have to show for my Forever World experiment a couple of months in. But there are some things that I've learned along the way that I would like to share. So firstly, you have to remember to maintain a boundary with your Sims 4 perfectionism and that kind of should mindset when it comes to playing with your Forever World. When I started my save file, I really genuinely honestly thought I'd disabled neighborhood stories, both in the world management tab and in the settings, and I don't know if it's maybe MC Command Center having something to do with this, even though I believe that I have fiddled around with the back end enough of it to maybe rule this out. I don't know what's happening, but there's a lot of messiness with the kind of NPC periphery townies in my Forever World. You know, a lot of people have gotten broken up, have got new relationships, had random babies, and moved to houses that aren't originally theirs. And I think that me from the past would really be like, ew, I hate this. My like perfectionist itch is like getting me, and I want to start again where it's nice and fresh and clean. And I really have had to just kind of tell myself to stop it and honestly just embrace it, because it has kind of like, I guess, been throwing up some random kind of storytelling curveballs that you have to learn to work with, which is quite fun. And again, just sort of like another challenge, as with Summer's death. You don't expect it. You just kind of learn to like roll with the punches, I guess. And honestly, I don't really notice this kind of background chaos unless one of my active Sims really comes into contact with these affected households. So I think that I've just learned to kind of separate my brain a little bit and be like out of sight, out of mind when it comes to this stuff. And I want to talk a little bit more about this in a minute, but The Sims 4 has so much room for these kind of periphery Sims to clog up your game, especially with the more packs that you have. So you really have to guard your peace with it a little bit, I think, is my big tip, because I know that this is something that quite a few of you guys actually struggle with yourselves when you are playing in your own Forever Worlds. And again, recently I've been asking you guys what you've been struggling with in your own Forever Worlds, and quite a few of you guys have referenced aging in this conversation, which I totally understand, and I think that it does play a big part in this conversation around kind of your perfectionist mindset and trying to manage the world around your active households in your Forever World. And honestly, this wasn't really something that I had to kind of confront in my own game until quite recently. So I think that how I've been viewing aging in my own Forever World is to kind of look at each household as its own bubble, where you kind of, again, have these periphery connected Sims to this active bubble. So let's take Cassandra Goth, for example, right? So as I've obviously been playing with her quite a lot in my game at the moment, she has been aging quite a lot, because I do play with my current active household with aging turned on for them. So obviously the rest of the Goth household, like Bella, Mortimer, Alexander, and the two random siblings that also got born, they were staying static, they weren't aging. However, this now means that the whole household is kind of out of sync, because Cassandra is the same age as Bella, which is a little bit weird, okay? So then I actually decided one day, do you know what, hey, I've got an extra 15 minutes while I'm playing, let me go into the main Goth household and kind of age them up relative to Cassandra. So Cassandra is the kind of anchor that I'm then editing these periphery connected Sims alongside. I did see though a really fantastic comment from somebody which mentioned that they, a couple of times a year, I believe, will have a holiday set up in the calendar for the whole town, and on that day they will kind of reference a database that they have and kind of see, right, okay, who needs to be aged up on this day, so that then roughly the whole town and everybody stays kind of aged relative to each other, which I really liked the idea, and it might be something that I consider adding into my own game. Honestly, if anything, just to remind myself to check in with the kind of like periphery connected connected Sims that I have. And this whole general discussion leads me on to the should of it all. Sometimes I get this feeling that I should play with a certain household because I created them, I put all the effort into, making them, making their story and all of this stuff. But in these moments, I have to remind myself that I am playing a video game for fun, okay? And that should have no hand in this conversation whatsoever. So I've really been trying to listen to my want to instead. And it really is kind of following this should mindset, I think, is the quickest way to really leech the fun out of a forever world. And I've been trying my best to avoid this feeling because, again, it's meant to be for fun. As a quick example of this, I initially again created Burt Pancakes. And if you've actually picked up SavePal, which is my forever world Notion tracker template, then you'll see Burt Pancakes is actually the example household that I included in that. And now I've barely actually played with him relative to my other households because I've just not felt like it. And I've kept him in my world because I really like his story. But I keep just reminding myself I'll come back to him when I feel like it. And I do feel like that itch is starting to come back. So the next big thing that I've learned while playing my Forever World actually relates to the scale of worlds in general in The Sims 4. Now, this might sound a little bit odd, but you know how The Sims 4 can feel a little bit small at times, especially if you're used to the kind of more open world of The Sims 3, for example. You can literally just whiz between any neighborhood by smacking the M button, clicking where you want to go, and then you're there. The kind of sense of scale really is distorted, and especially where we have some of the bigger neighborhoods, a lot of it's filled with set dressing, so you don't really have that much to do, even if you can travel quite far technically. However, playing in just one neighborhood predominantly, obviously visiting other neighborhoods sometimes when I can be bothered to go through a loading screen, but playing in just one neighborhood has made me feel like the game is actually a lot bigger because I still have so many neighborhoods and worlds to edit when I get to them eventually. I guess I've just slightly forgotten how much of the game there still is to conquer, I suppose. Now again, not every world feels as rich in terms of the things that there are to do in them, etc. But it is a weirdly refreshing feeling. Now, next, I know that I did just mention SavePal, but I have to say that tracking my save has been absolutely key and essential in making sure that I stay motivated with playing my Forever World, because my Sims now have so many goals, they've got so much backstory, and if I don't track it, then I will literally forget what I've done previously and what I am working towards. So again, if you want to check out SavePal for yourself, it's linked in the description down below. And on a similar note here, having goals is essential to build up your love for your Forever World, in my opinion, especially if you're a very gameplay focused girly like I am versus, Cass or Built By, or even storytelling. The thing that I get the most rush from when playing The Sims is getting to tick a box saying that I achieved a goal that I was working towards. And reflecting on the households that I am enjoying playing with most and that I've definitely put the most time and effort into, those being my Very Veggie household and Cassandra, I have super strong goals with these families and a lot of them as well. I think that a good few of you guys also struggle with this, and I really would say to kind of embrace the chaos and remember that there are so many types of goals that you can set past get married or master this skill, and those goals are fine, but there's a lot more that you can kind of dig deeper with, I guess. So let's take Cass for an example. She's an evil scientist now, and two of her side quests were first to make a bunch of snake oil serums and to sell them on her front yard. This was of course to raise the funds to build the underground basement, but I also just thought that it was a hilarious idea. An evil scientist literally sells you a product called snake oil. Cool. I just think that that's really funny. And a second goal was, of course, putting Lane into a coffin. Turns out she's the jealous type. This doesn't technically do anything in my game, but it just, again, strengthens her character and kind of moves along her story. All of this is to say that I really have been challenging myself to explore these kind of silly side quests past, again, these big overarching goals, like reaching the top of a career, completing the Strangerville storyline, and, kind of stuff like that, I suppose. It really does make for much more memorable moments than, oh wow, cool, okay, okay? I mastered the gardening skill for the 17th time, you know? And so using some kind of note-taking system has been so helpful for reminding me of these like weird little side quests that I eventually want to go down with my Sims. The last thing that I've learned while playing in my forever world is a little bit of a silly one, but it really has reinforced to me that I am not a family gameplay type of girly. I don't really care for family gameplay, and maybe that would change in the future, but for now, I've embraced that shouldless mindset when it comes to letting myself skip past the infant and toddler stages, especially with little Ametista and Nova so far, and it has hugely helped me to enjoy the game more, even if I typically try to avoid that kind of slightly more cheaty style of play, I guess you could say. But with that said, guys, I think that that's everything that I wanted to update you on in the first 4 months of my Sims 4 Forever world, and I really hope that you enjoyed the video and learnt something along the way. I want to give a huge thanks to our absolutely super duper amazing channel members. So starting with the Tiberia members, we have Amy M, Roberta C, and Bloody Porcelain, and moving on to our Soul Piece members, and truth, there are quite a few of you guys now. Thank you all so much. But we have Simply Stephanie, Catherine, Adriana J, Ebba L, Charlie, Rachel D, Vanagander, Lisa S, Leone, Mason P, Melissa H, Nina B, Moa 1015, Pandora, and Haley M. Thank you guys, honestly, again, all so much. Your support really does mean the world. Once again, my question of the day has been, how is your Sims 4 Forever world going if you're running one yourself? And if you want to hear me blather on some more, check out the video on the screen now because YouTube has picked it out just for you. But other than that, thanks so much for watching and I'll see you again soon.